Hello, everyone. My name is Jay, and I am so excited to be having a conversation with you today about the one thing that I truly feel will make or break your podcast: connection over perfection. And let me explain a little bit about what that means. In a world where podcasting is more accessible than ever, I can literally start a podcast in 10 seconds if I really wanted to. Many creators focus on the wrong thing. They focus on equipment, sound quality, marketing strategies. But what truly makes a podcast thrive? Connection. Whether you're a podcaster or a guest, your ability to build real, engaging connections with your audience or host is what separates forgettable content from transformative conversations. Today, I hope to talk to you about and explore the power of connection, why it's more important than perfection, why it's more important than camera quality, audio quality, and all those things all put together, why it's so much more important to intentionally cultivate it within your conversation and to grow it from your influence, your impact, and your audience. So let's jump into it. Your audience won't remember how perfect you sounded. They're going to remember how you made them feel. Now, what does that mean? Well, imagine you're scrolling through your favorite podcast app, whether that's Good Pods, maybe it's Podcatcher, maybe it's just Spotify or Apple. I don't know. I don't know what you're using. There's so many, right? You hit play on an episode, but within the first few minutes, something happens. Not that it's hilarious. They made a banger of a joke. They absolutely crushed their opening, their intro, and all those things, right? But no, within that first few minutes, you feel seen, understood, connected, and you're hooked. But what made you want to stay? Maybe the host is very good looking. Maybe they have a great beard, good goatee, cool hat. Who knows? I don't know. But it probably isn't any of that. Maybe you're not even watching. You're probably just listening. It's probably not the perfect sound design that sounds like it was made in Hollywood in a perfect audio studio with soundproof walls and everything like that. It was a connection. They made you feel something. And that is why connection matters more than perfection in podcasting. So many of us, we focus on the wrong things. We focus on perfect audio, high production value, over-preparing, sounding scripted, and overthinking every single word. But look, let me tell you firsthand, none of that truly matters. My experience as a guest or as a host, the episodes that do the best are the ones that don't have the perfect audio, that don't have any production value, that are very unprepared, underprepared, and it's just a nice, free-flowing conversation from me to them to you, the listener. That's all it is. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And not overthinking every word that you want to say. And not worrying about, am I going to sound perfect? Does that sound right? Is that politically correct? And all these other things. Doesn't matter. People want to connect and they want to feel something. So these things are important, but they won't build a loyal listener if there's no emotional connection. I think of some of my favorite podcasts when I think of that. There's episodes that I'll listen to because I'm like, ooh, I'm interested in that topic. But I can lose interest very quickly if the host isn't helping me connect to it, connect to the things that I feel about it, connect to the things that they feel about it, feeling their passion, feeling their gusto, and all those things. It's not going to feel it, not going to be the same at all. And the biggest challenge that so many of us podcasters are missing, so many of us hosts are missing, is the key ingredient here: authenticity and connection with our audience. People can smell BS from a mile away. They can tell, oh, this host is fake. Oh, this podcast is just blah, 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 garbage, right? They can tell. They know. Our listeners are very smart, intelligent people, and they want to feel something. They listen to a podcast to escape, to feel some relief, to laugh, to feel, and to just unwind sometimes. I listen to podcasts while I'm playing video games, while I'm doing homework, while I'm working, and everything in between. And I do it just to feel good. So, what is the solution? Well, that's a great question. There's a few things that we can do to solve this problem together. First is the listener first mindset. What the heck is a listener first mindset? Well, the age-old saying here, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. If I could have a conversation with you right now, I would most likely have my ears wide open. However, I'm the one talking, so that doesn't really work out right now. You know what I mean? But every time I've ever gone back and I looked at the best recordings I've done, I see my audio line is very small little chunks, and the guests, nice and long. They got to talk. I got to listen. I really got to engage with them more. It's actually my dad that pointed this out to me when I first started podcasting. My dad's my big fan, but he pointed this out when I first started podcasting. He's like, Jay, you talk a lot. I'm like, I don't talk that much. He's like, dude, you dominated the conversation. Your guests hardly talk. I'm like, whoa, is that true? So I went back, challenged it. I'm like, it could be just my dad being critical, but no, he was 100% right. Talk too dang much. And I want to listen more. I want to gain from this person. So not only is my audience gaining and listening, but I'm also gaining and listening at the same time. And we're speaking to our audience. We're not speaking at them, down to them, or anything like that. We're speaking to them, if not speaking with them. They're a part of this conversation. They're a part of this episode. They should feel like, oh, that's thought-provoking. That's engaging. That's making me feel. That's making me all these things, right? So we have to think about who we're talking to and what they need from us. What does the listener need to get from this episode? And what do they need from me to get that? And some of the best podcasts feel like it's a conversation, not a lecture. And who's the best podcaster out there? Who's number one all the time? Joe Rogan. Every conversation he has, every podcast is a conversation. I get lost and saw sometimes a couple hours ago, but like, whoa, let's listen to 2 hours of Rogan. Whoa, that was crazy. But it was just so good. It was a conversation. I felt like I was just there, part of it, laughing, joking, having fun, and just enjoying it along the way. But why is that so powerful? That's because there's a power of vulnerability there. Joe is vulnerable. His guests are vulnerable. I'm hosting. I'm vulnerable. My guests, vulnerable. People connect with people. That's why. Not perfection. They don't care how perfect you are. If you sound great, if you stutter, if you have a speech impediment, if you have the perfect, silky smooth radio voice, they don't care about that. They want to connect. They don't care about the perfection. Throw the perfection out the window. It doesn't. It matters, but it doesn't matter that much. Listeners resonate with real stories, struggles, and moments of honesty. I can't tell you how many times I've been on a podcast recording or as a guest, and I've stuttered, I've tripped over my words, not been able to land an intro or an outro or a question, and I'm mumbling and I'm fumbling. That happens all the time. It's just the way it is. And that's okay. You know, there's been times on the podcast where I have shared something deeply personal when it comes to my life, maybe a past experience, maybe my divorce, maybe with my kids, maybe in work, maybe just in life, maybe how I grew up, maybe anything related to me as a person. And then does that transform the conversation? Transform the whole vibe? Or maybe my guest does it with me to where, to give an example, I recorded an episode with a mother and a daughter. We were talking about recovery. We were talking about the mother's recovery story and the impact that had on the daughter. The conversation was so vulnerable. It was so honest. The people that engaged with that, the audience engagement with that was incredible because people related. They're like, hey, my mom went through, or my dad, or my uncle, or this person I love. That it affected me that way too. It resonated. It resonated. And I want more of that. I want to feel more. Everyone wants to feel more. Things that get you thinking are the things you want more of. And those are the things that make you want to engage. Right? And so as a host, we want to find ways to engage our audience. See, like I was saying, I just messed up. I'm not going to worry about that. It's okay. The art of active engagement is what I'm trying to get into here. And there's simple ways to make your audience feel involved, right? Shout out to your responses. Yeah, they send in a question. You answer the question, talk to them, have that conversation. Heck, bring them on the podcast if there's something big and you got to break it down. You don't got to have high caliber guests all the time. Bring a guest on, bring a friend on, talk to people you know, respond authentically, real, like human. And of course, social media engagement, you know, replies are great. Replies always get you better engagement. If you can reply, you can find people to reply to, cross promote, talk about your stuff on their posts and things like that. You find a good community of people that are all doing that. Maybe it's joining a podcast collective or something like that, but who knows? But there's just some other ways that you can engage. But our guests can make the podcast feel dynamic instead of just answering questions. And that's how it should. It should be a conversation. At least I feel like it should be a conversation. If it's not a conversation, I don't want it. If I'm just sitting there asking you question and answers, I'm more than likely going to throw that episode out because that doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't do anything for my listener. It doesn't do anything to help my podcast. Because people don't want that. They want us to talk. They want us to dig into it. They want us to get into the weeds. I love an episode where I'm talking about a topic. Maybe it's a lawyer who then went to prison. I've had a couple of these, but lawyers who've gone to prison and then come out of it. and how their life is changing around. And we dig into that. We dig into the nitty gritty of how did that impact your family? How did that impact you raising kids? How did that impact your future career? How did that impact the choices you made before, during, and after? And these conversations, these great guests create a conversation, not just an interview. I don't love the word interview. Interview is probably one of my least favorite things. Like, oh yeah, I interviewed this guy. It's like, no, I had a conversation with this person. They're amazing. I learned this, that. How cool. How cool. But we have to find ways to implement all this, right? It all sounds great. It all sounds great. You're hearing this, it all sounds good, and you want more of it, but how can I implement it? Well, let's talk some practical steps that our podcasters, our hosts, and our guests can do to build stronger connections today, starting right now. Best time to start was probably yesterday, but second best time today. Speak like you're talking to a close friend. It should feel so personable, so comfortable. You as a host should be able to make your guests feel that way, and as a guest, you should feel like that way too. It should be reciprocated. So speak like you're talking to a close friend. You're not going to talk question and answers with your best friend. You're going to laugh, you're going to joke, you're going to be informal, it's going to be fun, it's going to be lighthearted, you're going to laugh, right? And you're going to share personal stories with your close friends, even the imperfect ones, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. You're going to share all those, and that's perfect. It's exactly what the listeners are after. Ask your audience questions, encourage responses, call to action. Say, hey, if you love this, drop that. Or, hey, during this recording, I asked this question, or, pull those different bits and pieces out to put on social media or on your story or wherever you want to put them. I'm no social media expert, but if you ask your audience questions in the podcast that they listen to, like, oh, they asked me to go jump on Instagram. Yeah, I'm going to go do that real quick and answer that. It builds that response. It builds that connection. And of course, be fully present in every conversation. It goes back. Listen more than you talk. God gave you 2 ears, 1 mouth. Should the host always dominate the conversation? No. Should they occasionally? Sometimes. Maybe 80-20. Because maybe sometimes the host really just has to carry that and the guest needs that extra help. Maybe you're having an off day, who knows? But 80% of your recordings, every 80% of the interviews and the conversations you have should be you as a host listening more than you talk. And if you're a guest on the other side, 80% of the conversation should be you talking more than you're listening. And that makes for a great conversation, a great podcast that people will resonate with, that they'll feel. And will it be perfect? No. But will it be authentic? Yes. So I want to reinforce a couple of key takeaways here. If you take away anything from this last however many minutes, people don't want polished perfection. They don't want every sound, crickle, crackle thing out of that. Those things are human. We get it. People understand. Like, most podcasts are done at home in an office somewhere that's not a professional studio, that's not perfectly lit, that doesn't have the perfect sound quality and all those things. People don't want polished perfection. They're not going to remember polished perfection either, but they're going to remember how you made them feel. They're going to remember what you left them with up here and in here. That's what matters. That's what they want. That's why they're coming to your podcast. That's why they keep coming back to your podcast. So it would be remiss of me to not leave with a call to action after talking to you about a call to action. So next time you record, forget about being perfect. Just forget about it. Totally forget. It's going to be hard. It's easier said than done, but try your best to forget about being perfect and focus on being present, engaged, and real. That's it. Present, engaged, real. And you're going to knock it out of the park. And maybe one of the best podcasts you ever had, and that you may walk away as a host thinking, wow, that was incredible. It flowed. There's no issues. It was easy. Man, that was good. How can I replicate that? Same way, same formula you just did, do it again. Present, engaged, real. Limit your distractions. Put your phone down. Put it on silent. Put it away. Limit your distractions. Don't have more tabs open than you need to have open. Present, engaged, and real. Share the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful. All of it. So, with that, stay present, stay engaged, stay real. Thank you for listening, and I can't wait to hear the stories you share.